welcome to the world premiere of Utau Reviews, the one and only YouTube series where basically a bunch of Utaus review things. That's pretty much it. It's straightforward and a bit of a work in progress. I'm your host, Melly, and what? What are you looking at? Is it the costume? Yeah, that's how it's going to be when I host. I'll be dressed as things pertaining to the movie or things I like. I'm dressed as Minnie Mouse. Why, you ask? Well, you'll find out soon. Recently, I've subscribed to this channel called Guestsheaux, who has this thing called Guestsheaux, where basically a bunch of other channels review different movies for him pertaining to the month. This month, he has a rather interesting choice, so let's take a look at what it is, shall we? Thanksgiving, the time of the year when we just get together as a family and discuss what we're thankful for. What am I thankful for? Having God in my life, having a family, being alive, and Disney. I've grown up with Disney, and I know some of their works today have become the traits of snark bait towards fans, but I don't really care. Disney still holds a place in my heart. And I've also a fan of DreamWorks as well. I've liked Kung Fu Panda, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. I am talking about this one studio in particular who is notorious for making rip-offs of popular movies but failing horribly. What is this studio, you ask? Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is Video Bricundo. For those who don't know, Video Bricundo is a Brazilian animation studio who is notorious for ripping off mostly Disney movies, but at one point ripping off DreamWorks. They ripped off Kung Fu Panda, Up, and at one point The Princess and the Frog. But this one movie I'm reviewing is actually another one of the works, which is a ripoff of Ratatouille. Yes, I have said it. Who would have guessed that there would be a ripoff of the ever popular movie where the rat dreams of becoming a chef? This movie, in particular, is called Ratatoing. Ugh, just saying that makes me want to puke. So the movie kicks off with an opening narration which describes the city that the movie takes place in, which is apparently Rio de Janeiro, and at this point we've reached one of Video Bricondo's problems. Their backgrounds and stages tend to be phallic and fairly unappealing. It's kind of distracting. And so we cut to the restaurant itself, Ratatoing, where everyone starts talking about how great the food is, which, I kid you not, lasts for 3 minutes into the movie. At this point, I am bored and I want to switch it to something else. We then meet who is apparently the waitress, Carol, who is voiced by Lisa Ortiz. Why on earth does that name sound so familiar? And if you haven't noticed already, we've already hit problem number 2 with Video Bricondo's films. The dialogue between the characters lasts way too long. Listen, if you're gonna make a good movie, have the dialogue be short and have it cut to the chase. Otherwise, it will be boring and would take up a lot of time. We then cut to the kitchen where we meet Marcel Toing, who is the chef and probably the owner. It's never really touched on. And he's voiced by Wayne Grayson. Oh boy, another familiar name. Where is he from, I wonder? We then meet Greg, who is voiced by Mike Pollock. And it is at this moment where I realize that these are all actors from Sonic X. Is this what happened to the actors after Sonic X ended? Sonic is very disappointed. And also, this is problem number 3 with Video Bricondo's films. They literally get the same actors to do their movies. You got Veronica Taylor, Mark Dorison, Scotty Ray, Mike Pollock, Lisa Ortiz, Dan Green, and Shannon Connolly, who is credited as her stage name in this movie as Vibe Jones. I'm guessing they did this so they could avoid the shame of ever being in this trash heap of a movie. So, blah, 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 more talk about how great the food is and how great the restaurant is. For the sake of time, I'm going to skip over that. At some point, a couple of customers pull Marcel over to tell them the secret ingredients to their food, and he says that it's got lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of...
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it!
dedication and hard work.
I will not engage, I will not engage, I will not engage.
So, four other customers who are apparently the antagonists of this story pull him over and ask him the same question again. Marcel gets pulled into a kitchen, and they nearly get the secret ingredients. What these antagonists are from a rival restaurant who have been losing customers because of their food quality.
I have several questions.
Well, I just have one question. If Ratatoing had a rival restaurant, wouldn't they have known about it? Wouldn't they have been competitive? I mean, what's worse is that they don't fully explain it. All that's known is that they're losing business and that they're attempting to put Ratatoing out of business to be more successful. To me, I think the movie would have done a much better job if they had focused more on these four instead of Ratatoing. It would show how the business was deteriorating in quality and their different methods of trying to be successful again. So, moving right along, apparently it's Thursday night, and every Thursday night they go into the human's restaurant, which apparently looks more like a kitchen in a house rather than a restaurant, to steal fresh food. So, basically, through some pointless pseudo scene reminiscent of a James Bond movie, they get into the kitchen, and Marcel manages to steal a strawberry. We cut back to the brown-haired rat lady who's going back into the restaurant because she left the notebook from earlier on the table they were at, and this is where we hit problem number 4 with Video Kendall's films. Most, if not all of their scenes, tend to play out of order or there are jump cuts. It's just really, really annoying. It is just lazy editing. So she finds out that the door to the kitchen is open. She goes in, finds the secret passageway that leads to the human restaurant, and she finds Marcel, Carol, and Greg in there, and she discovers the secret to the ingredients of Marcel's dish. She goes back, tells the others, and they concoct a plan to make sure that Ratatoing goes out of business, which is basically scaring the humans in the restaurant in a rather stupid scene. And I'm just going to take a moment to point out that the human models are extremely lazily done. I mean, they're just the same things with just minor changes. When designing a good character, it's best that you have the design set apart from each other, making them unique in their own ways. This right here just fits on all of that. I would also like to say ditto to the rat designs. I can't even tell if they're supposed to be mice or rats. They actually look like a mixture of both. And the models are basically the same things for both the male and the female characters with just different color changes and hairstyles. Ladies and gentlemen, this is laziness at its finest. So the plan works, a week passes, and everyone's starting to get tired of the strawberry, which is justified since they only got one and one strawberry won't do jack. So they get ready for their Thursday night adventure by using the same footage from the beginning of the movie, except it's shorter, which also includes them entering. Again, I say, laziness at its finest. So they find out that there are traps spread all over the place due to the events of earlier, and eventually Marcel finds a chocolate bar, which he attempts to carry, and they see a cat who has, I must admit, the most ridiculous running motion ever. I mean, just look at it. So the chase is on, and Marcel manages to get away, but he has to leave the chocolate behind, and they end up running low on ingredients that they have to make do for a while. And so the main antagonists discuss how their plan worked, but how they haven't benefited from the events. Again, this is why the movie should have focused on the antagonists rather than Ratatoing itself. So ladies dare the dudes to go into the human kitchen to steal food for their restaurant. Once again, it's Thursday night, so Thursday night adventure, yada yada yada, all that junk. So Marcel attempts to distract the cat while Greg and Carol try to gather as much cheese as they can. I don't see why they just can't run off if they didn't call it a night. I'm just saying. The mice dude antagonists arrive and attempt to come up with a plan that chases on between Marcel and the cat named Paulo again. The mice dudes try to steal the cheese from Carol and Greg. The dudes are caught by Marcel and Paulo. The two mice dudes are sent off to some scientific lab. Paula becomes a new customer at Ratatoing, and that's the end of the movie. That, ladies and gentlemen, was Ratatoing, And boy, was it something else. This movie practically nails what not to do when making a 3D movie for the first time. The character designs are extremely lazy. The voice acting is mediocre at best and awful at its worst regarding lip syncing. Look, I understand that this movie comes from another country and that it had to be dubbed in another language, but when you are dubbing something in another language, at least attempt to have the words match the lip movement. Here, they just don't even try, which is another one of Video Brickendo's problems. Awful lip syncing and mediocre voice acting. The animation is absolute trash. The plot makes no sense. And the characters are completely unlikable. I mean, Greg's an idiot. Carol's just there because you can never have a movie without the Smurf frat principal and voluptuous women. And what's his face is completely useless. The only upside to this, however, are the antagonists and the soundtrack. The antagonists I like because at least they had a backstory that Ratatoing didn't. Their business was deteriorating because of their food quality. They were trying to do their best to improve, but they were having a hard time to. As Ratatoing, it was just completely flawless, and Marcel is just somewhat of a Gary Stew, as he was just so easily to convince the cat to join him when cats are mice enemies. And another thing that's another upside to this is the soundtrack. The soundtrack is actually quite decent. But what I don't understand is if you're going to rip off Ratatouille, why isn't the plot similar to Ratatouille? I mean, in Ratatouille, the rat dreams of becoming a chef. Here, the rat is already a chef. The only thing similar to this are the presence of rats and the minor appearance of humans. In Ratatouille, humans were mostly present, and they played a bit of a part in the movie. Here, they are just absolutely useless. If I had to give this movie a rating, I would give this a 2 out of 10. I really don't recommend this movie for anybody in general. However, I would recommend it for the interesting antagonist and the decent soundtrack. And that is the end of our very first episode of Utau Reviews. I will see you all next time.